What's happening, YouTube? This is Paul coming at you today from Maymount Media, and today we're going to be talking about shooting wedding photography with zoom lenses versus prime lenses. Let's jump in. All right, guys, so this is Paul Friedman. If you're new to the channel, my name is Paul Friedman. That's Spencer Mandel behind the camera, and we are Maymount Media. We are based on the Mid-Coast area of Maine, and we are a photo and video company. A lot of what we do is wedding photography, and the first week of every month this year, we're gonna be doing a wedding-specific video. So check back every month for more wedding content, and if you like to shoot other styles of photography, check back every week and see what we got for you. Today, we're gonna be talking about the difference between zoom lenses and prime lenses when shooting wedding photography. And today, I will not have any answers for you. Today's just sort of an open discussion. We're gonna be talking about pros versus cons, and I personally struggle with this decision, so maybe this will help me a little bit, help give a little bit of clarity to myself and my wedding photography, or maybe this will just create more questions than it answers and just leave me with less decision. But generally speaking, a wedding photographer can accomplish amazing results with both styles of lenses. So if you shoot primes and you think primes are the be all and end all of wedding photography and you would be a fool to shoot zoom lenses,
you're a fool, Harry Potter.
Don't necessarily agree with you. I kind of disagree. I think, you know, if this is how you work and this is the wheelhouse that you've always worked in and you love to be able to zoom in and out and not have to move and make those snap zooms and get different framing from the same location, then perfect. Keep doing that. If that's what works for you, that's great. And even if you would be so kind, leave a comment below and let me know why zoom lenses work so well for you, and maybe that'll help me. And if you're the kind of person who shoots only primes, maybe you only shoot one lens and one camera for a whole wedding, and you get amazing results and your clients are super happy, tell me what you use, tell me how you use it and why you use it. I want to hear from you guys. So this is going to be more of an open discussion, and I'm going to dive right in with I don't think either is better. I think if you say these are better, I think you might be mistaken, or maybe you just, I don't know, maybe you just haven't shot enough with zooms or whatever, but I see the pros and cons of both. I've shot weddings with both. I've shot weddings with just zooms, I've shot weddings with just primes, and I've shot weddings sort of switching back and forth. And I can see a different situation for every single style of lens, and that's why I'm sort of paralyzed in choice sometimes. Sometimes the so many options leave me struggling even more, and I kind of wish I could go back to the days when I only had a 24-105 and one body and that was it, because I didn't have any decisions to make. I had what I had and I had to work with that, and that's great. And sometimes that challenge is the reason why I choose to shoot with primes, because maybe you can't, you know, with a 35mm as your wide angle lens and you're in a really small room, you can't really capture the whole scene. And so you have to decide what's important. You're looking at the scene and you're like, what drew me into this? Why did I want to shoot a photo? Maybe it's the makeup artist, touching up the makeup on her eyes. And then you don't have to shoot the whole room because all you really need to get is her eyeball. And so all of a sudden, boom, you don't even need to shoot your wide angle lens. Now you can get your 85 out and you can shoot a real close up of just that, because that's what drew your camera up to your eye. And now you know, all right, that was my subject. That's why I want to shoot this lens. Boom, you change your whole mindset. You change your framing. I think primes really challenge you and help you as a photographer think more critically about, why did I want to shoot a photo right now? What was the subject of that photo? And how can I accomplish that with what I have? And I really like that sometimes, especially sometimes when I'm at the back of a ceremony and I really want like a close-up of them standing up there, but I don't have a lens long enough to get up there, and maybe you're in a church, you're not allowed to walk up the center aisle or something like that. Okay, cool. Now what do you do? What's your solution? Okay, there's a lot of other elements in your frame that you maybe didn't want in an ideal world, but they're going to be there. So how can you reposition your body so that it's an endearing and attractive composition? How can you fix that problem, so to speak? I think sometimes adversity really leads to some better photography and stronger photographers as a whole. And that's why I think primes can be really, really beneficial. Zooms, however, have their pros and cons as well. On the zoom end, over here, just so you guys know, I don't know if this is too dark in the frame to pick it up, but over here we have sort of like the famous trinity of 2.8 zooms, the L series sort of pinnacle of the zoom lenses from Canon. It's the 16 to 35 f2.8, there's the 24 to 70 f2.8, and the 70 to 200 f2.8. That means every focal length from a full frame 16 millimeter ultra wide all the way to a full frame 200 millimeter telephoto lens covered through and through with 2.8 apertures steady from 16 to 200. And that's something special. I mean, when I first started out, this was the dream over here. This is where I wanted to live. It's everything I wanted. I would wake up in the morning and go, how do I get the 2.8 zooms? And I would go to sleep at night and fall asleep with images of the 70 to 200 great white hanging off my hip one day. And then I got them and was like, great, this is the dream come true. And it didn't really change my photography as much as I thought it would. Sort of a, I don't know if it's a rookie mistake or if it was just a Paul mistake, but I kind of thought the gear was the one piece that was missing, and it totally wasn't. I mean, it's a means to an end. It's a tool. And if you know how to use it, it's a really powerful tool. But sometimes you have to remember, or at least I have to remember, that it's the photographer that makes the photo. It all happens up here. 6 inches behind the camera is where the whole photo happens. It's all in your head. It's all in your own eyes. And when you see a scene, how do you want to capture it? It's going to be your decision, and you have to make that decision on your own. You can't let camera marketing companies or other photographers tell you what's going to make your photography better. It's going to be you and only you. And we're going to talk on this channel a lot about how to make your photography better, and whether it's, techniques of how to capture strong imagery, how to process your images, how to be in the right moment at the right time, how to build a rapport with your clients. Those types of things are going to be addressed on this channel, and those are going to be the things that matter way more than gear. But without lenses and without camera bodies, you can't make photos. So these do matter, and they also matter to you and me. And they sort of inspire us and help us sort of like find a way to create. And so over here we've got, just so you know what you're looking at on this side, I've got the Canon 50mm f1.8, the Nifty 50, the Plastic Fantastic, if you will. This should be, if you shoot Canon, the best lens, the first lens that you buy after you get your kit lens on your brand new Canon lens. If you shoot Nikon, they make a Nifty 50 Plastic Fantastic that you should look into. If you shoot Sony or Fuji or whatever company brand you choose to shoot, they all make one cheap, I shouldn't say cheap, inexpensive, fast prime normal focal length lens. And by normal focal length, I mean it doesn't really distort the world around very much. 50, or more accurately 40 to 45 millimeter on a full frame camera is normal, and that's going to be like the most relatable focal length. It won't really change the world around you very much from how you as your naked eye sees the world. And this is a fantastic lens. I know I could shoot a whole wedding with just this one $125 Plastic Fantastic 50mm f1.8. It's amazing. I still shoot it to this day. I have upgraded to other 50mm lenses and have since thrown them at a concrete floor.
Look at Randy Orton slithering. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Floor and continue to shoot this lens. This is a great lens. Never discount this one. And if you don't have it in your bag, you should. Even if you have, the amazing 50mm f1.2 RF, everything blah, 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 stabilized, all that good stuff. This is like the cost of like 2 Canon batteries. You might as well put it in your bag as a backup. It's an amazing lens. I shoot professional portraits with it still to this day. Awesome lens. Highly recommend to rookies and pros alike. And then also over here, I have sort of like the classic combo of primes. This is the 85mm and a 35mm. This is Sigma's 35mm f1.4. This is actually Spencer's. And this is my 85mm f1.4 ISL, blah, 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 extra code and fancy numbers and digits. But basically 85, 35. Standard wide angle lens, I can't say standard or regular because that sort of indicates that it's a normal focal length. The most common standard wide angle lens, and then the most common sort of medium telephoto lens. Both you can shoot portraits with, both you can shoot scenes with, both you can shoot ceremonies, you can shoot dancing, you can shoot dinner, you can shoot everything on a whole wedding day with a 35 and an 85. And this is what a lot of photographers choose to shoot weddings with. It's what I like to shoot weddings with, although sometimes these days when I shoot my Fuji weddings, I like to go a little wider than the 35 millimeter focal length equivalent. Sometimes I'm shooting a little bit more like the 24 and an 85 or what have you. But generally speaking, if you're going to shoot 2 primes, most wedding photographers choose to carry 2 bodies with a wide and a tele, and that goes pretty well. Sometimes when I'm shooting zooms at weddings, I'll put the 16 to 35 on one hip and the 70 to 200 on the other hip, and I carry 2 bodies, and this is a really amazing and powerful combo. 2.8 is almost always enough for the wider end of things. For the telephoto and portrait primes, sometimes I find 2.8 not being quite enough light for some scenarios, but today I'm here to tell you that if you can't get the shot with a modern DSLR and an f2.8 aperture because there's not enough light, you might want to think about creating some light. Because it's not just about amount of light, it's about value and quality of light. So if you don't have the intensity of light that you need, make it. Bring a light, bring a flash, or have them move closer to the window, or have them step outside for a minute, or whatever you need to do. There's always a way to work with the light that you have, especially if you're shooting f2.8. If you're somebody showing up with, your 18 to 55 f3.5 to 5.6 or whatever it might be, okay, sure, f5.6 might not be enough light to shoot a wedding because a lot of weddings are indoors. They kind of run late into the night. Okay, sure, you might want to look into getting either a bright portrait prime or something to shoot a little later in the night. But in my experience, and this is not a rule, this is not for you to just like take home and tell your wedding photographer friend that he's an idiot or she's an idiot. That's not true at all. I'm just telling you, in my experience, in my personal preference, if 2.8's not enough light, if it's really, really hard to get the shot with an f2.8 lens, I generally, at that point, won't think, okay, now I need to switch. I'll generally think, okay, now it's time for me to add a little bit of light. Get a flash, get a steady LED box out or whatever. So when I show up in the morning, for example, and bride's getting ready with all of her bridesmaids, and they're in this dark little hotel room, and they all, for some reason, set up on the other side of the room away from all the windows, and the makeup artist didn't bring a light, I bring a light. I walk in there and I say, hey, I don't want to mess anyone up. And if this is a pain in the ass, you don't have to do this, but I'd kind of like to bring a light in here. And makeup artists will love you. Hairdressers will love you. And they might even ask for suggestions and go buy their own light because it's actually really helpful for them. Also, it'll make your photos better and it'll make you stand out a little bit. It'll make your clients think, wow, this guy comes prepared. He does not mess around and he's got everything I need to get the job done. So think about that a little bit. Think about, I like to shoot natural light and sometimes, I need the 1.4 or I need the 1.2 or the 0.95 aperture. Okay, sure. Yeah, that'll be cool and it'll help. But, maybe if you're shooting in a room that dark, you think about the quality of the light. Think about the angle of the light. It might just be a lot of ambient light and you might not really have very flattering light on the faces of your subjects. And you are in charge of making sure that that works, making sure you create the light that you need when you don't have it. So that's one sort of discussion to be had about, primes. They often have faster apertures than zooms. And so because of that, you can capture more light. But it's also a depth of field discussion, and I hear you. I mean, trying to shoot a 70 millimeter f2.8 and shoot portraits, yeah, okay, it's kind of shallow. You gotta get that blurry bokeh background, but not really. 85 wide open at f1.4, nice and close up. You will not even know what's in the background. It's gonna be one big blurry mush, and it's gonna be beautiful. And that's what's gonna sometimes set you apart from other photographers. Boom, you got that portrait look, that background look. And that's cool, and that's what these are for. But just know the limitations. Sometimes when you're shooting wide open with a bright prime like these, you're gonna introduce things like vignetting, things like chromatic aberration, and also the plane of acceptable focus, the actual tack sharp part of the photo is gonna be paper thin, especially with the 85. At 35, you've got a little more room. But when you're in at 35 or you're shooting like the 135 f2 or something, it's gonna be paper thin. And if you're focusing and then lean forward and shoot, you're missing it. Or you're going to take the shot and they take a step, forward or back or left or right, you miss the focus. It's a double-edged sword. It's a pro in that you get this amazing, photo with amazing shallow depth of field, but your hit rate, if you're anything like me and the room and your wedding days move as fast as mine do, you will find yourself missing. And because of that, I've learned to compensate by shooting 2 or 3 frames instead of just one. It's like bang, 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 real quick. That way, if one of them is out of focus, there's, 2 other shots where they might have leaned forward again, or maybe you moved with them, or you're walking backwards down the aisle with the 35 at 1.8, or you've got the 16 1.4 on and you're backing up and you're shooting with them, and maybe you miss one, but then the next one falls into focus, or the next one after that falls into focus. And so I often will shoot more photos when I shoot with primes, which makes my post-processing workflow a lot slower. So there it is. I don't have any answers for you in this video. It's sort of just an open discussion and a sort of a way to sort of present how I like to do things, and how, when I'm on the dance floor, I like to have options, or when I'm at a ceremony, if I'm at a ceremony and I don't want to have to walk up the aisle and disrupt the ceremony, or if I'm in a church and they say you have to stay in the back, which will happen to you at some point in your life, having something like a 70-200 in your arsenal will be really helpful, because if you're stuck in the back of a church with 35 rows of pews and everything's happening at the front, 85 is not really gonna get there. And a 135 might get there, but having a 70-200 might be the solution to your problem. So these are all conversations worth having. I hope some of this got you thinking. And again, I know for a fact that I'm raising more questions than answers here, so engage with me, talk with me. Let me know down in the comments section what you guys shoot with, why you like to shoot that way, and if you heard anything on this video and you were like, Paul, you're dumb, let me correct you, let me know down in the comments section. I wanna hear from you guys. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below, do all the YouTube things, and thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.